Let's take a look at that story.
Talks of cracks within IEBC were said to have emerged way before Kenyans went to the polls on August the 8th, with insiders revealing divergent sentiments among the commissioners who were about to undertake Kenya's most contested polls since the 2007 one that left the country divided and many families in mourning. But with a will to deliver a credible election, the IEBC went ahead and conducted the poll that saw Uhuru Kenyatta announce the winner, beating his rival Raila Odinga by almost 1.5 million votes. But a surprise shock hit the commission when the Supreme Court annulled the election.
It is our finding that the illegalities and irregularities committed by the first respondent were of such a substantial nature that no court properly applying its mind to the evidence and the law as well as the administrative arrangements put in place by IEBC can in good conscience declare that they do not matter,
asking them to undertake a repeat election in 60 days. That is where Dr. Roselyn Akombe says she raised pertinent issues that needed to be addressed if at all the IEBC was to conduct a credible rerun.
You know, I've been organizing for months now about my role at the Commission and my effectiveness at the Commission and my safety, actually, and security. And I reached a decision after visiting 4 counties across the country and seeing my staff. I realized that we are in a difficult situation as a country, preparing for an election in which you have one candidate that has withdrawn, in which you have the Commission not meeting all its obligations and yet not coming out very strongly to say that these are the challenges we are facing in terms of technology.
Dr. Akombe, who was meant to be with her colleagues in Dubai making final preparations for the October 26th rerun election, flew to New York in the United States, where she was based at the United Nations before taking a sabbatical to be part of the elections referee in the country of her birth. She insists that by going ahead with the poll, then it will be not credible.
My sense really is that there was a period of time in which we could be able to make meaningful concessions that would have allowed NASA and Jubilee to play on a level playing ground in this election. But that time has lapsed.
In her statement, she raises concerns over the safety of IEBC officials in parts of Nyanza and Nairobi, and this came to light Tuesday in Siaya, where police came to the aid of the officials who were attacked by residents who insist that no elections will be conducted in the area in 7 days' time.
Walileta watu yao wanakuja kwa training hapa kwa hii church. Tumekataa, tukasanyika watu wote wale wa boda tukakataa, tukafukuza hawa.
Last week, Chairman Wafula Chebukati refuted claims he was about to jump ship, insisting the commission was stable and all was set for the repeat election. Dr. Akombe says that he is a noble man, but the current situation at the commission may force or render him unable to perform to the expectations of Kenyans.
Chebukati is a very well-meaning person. He has the temperament to be able to be a leader, but he's a leader who is under siege in the commission.
Just last week, the European Observer Group gave the IEBC a clean bill of health, stating that the Wafula Chebukati team is ready for the election and that all is well in the country. Dr. Akombe insists that if the concerns she has raised in her resignation letter are not taken into consideration, then the country will not undertake an election. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
So is her resignation enough to delegitimize the elections next week? That is up for discussion a bit later on in the broadcast. But for now, let's cross over to Parliament. Brenda Wanga standing by. NASA MPs are expected to make a statement on the IEBC and Roselyn Akombe's resignation. What can you tell us right now, Brenda?
Well, indeed, Victoria, reactions to that breaking development as far as the IEBC and its preparedness for the election are concerned. Amongst the first people to react to that, at least officially, will be the NASA MPs who are expected to be holding a press conference here at Parliament building. We do expect, Victoria, that when they eventually walk into that media center any minute from now, they will be reacting to, first and foremost, Roselyn Akombe's resignation, the implication of that. They will also be reacting to the issues she has raised in that resignation letter, in that interview she gave to the BBC. You will remember that NASA has been calling for changes at the IEBC, and from what Akombe says, it would appear that she in a way agrees with them that there needs to be changes at that commission body. Also, we will be expecting that they will be talking about these issues. They have indicated that they will also be talking about the general preparedness of the IEBC, which with this development has now been called into question, and the IEBC continues to be flung into much deeper crisis. So, Victoria, we are expecting that these are some of the issues that the NASA MPs will be addressing when they come here at the Media Center of Parliament in just a few minutes. Victoria?
All right, thanks, Brenda. Certainly a development we'll be following. We'll be heading back there live once they begin their remarks. For now, though, Ken Mijungu outside Anniversary Towers, the IEBC headquarters, to get a sense of what this means for the commission. It's been under the spotlight, not necessarily for the best reasons, Ken, but what does this mean?
All right, Victoria, it means now the commission is one commissioner less. We still know that they have enough quorum to undertake their responsibility according to the Constitution and, of course, the Elections Act. So that will still happen. However, this resignation totally throws the IEBC into disarray. And the reason why is because Commissioner Akombe has consistently, in the last few days, maintained that the IEBC is indeed ready for the repeat presidential election. And this has been shared across the media houses and in public forums where she has spoken. However, there's a rider to that now, because in her statement where she's resigning, she has indicated that the position she's been taking in the media, not quoting verbatim, but what she said is that it's increasingly becoming difficult to defend positions publicly, positions that she doesn't believe in. So it goes back to questioning when she was talking about these matters in public forums and in media houses, including our own station, where she said that the IEBC is prepared. Was she alive to the fact that these were not the true positions, but she still went ahead and stated them as she speaks about them in her statement, Victoria? It also means that now Kenyans have to contend with all the factors surrounding her resignation and what she has stated, specifically that the IEBC should be frank with Kenyans and tell Kenyans that indeed they cannot achieve a free, fair and credible election on the 26th of October. And also the fact that she states that the IEBC commission is a commission under siege. And in that BBC interview, she said that the chairman is well-meaning, but he is also under siege. Apart from that, Victoria, she's raised several issues and the level of preparedness, including the training of her staff. Now, we have to look at it also in that context, Victoria, that what is happening around the country with the training. Remember, she was in charge of the training, and remember what happened in Awasi and other parts of the country where the election is supposed to go on. Now, she says that there's fear for lives, imminent danger posed by the demonstrations around town and the uncertainties surrounding this election. And Victoria, also, when she talks about the fact that the commission is divided and it's increasingly becoming difficult to participate in the plenaries because the commissioners go there with just ready to vote. And of course, she talks about the positions that are already taken. And Victoria, all these clouds now, everything that the IEBC has been talking about in terms of preparedness, and of course the legal implication of this, Victoria, as at this point we cannot discern, but the fact is that the commission is still properly constituted to undertake the election. The question is, in the face of what she's raising, will it be possible to undertake a free, fair and credible election, Victoria?
Right, Ken, and this is interesting because it comes just days after the EU gave the IEBC a clean bill of health, further confusing the situation and having people wondering, what is the state of the IEBC really?
All right, Victoria, very interesting observation. And the AU, this will be the second time the AU is left with the EU rather is left with the egg on its face, and probably because of rushing to give such opinions, and probably it was also informed by the same information that informed Akombe's position that has been shared across all platforms, public media spaces, that the IEBC is ready. So the EU perhaps need to reevaluate its position in the face of this resignation letter and the indictment that has been given to the Commission, and that now questions the level of preparedness. One thing that I failed to mention earlier is that Akombe and a host of other IEBC officials were actually in Dubai, where they were supposed to inspect the printing of ballot papers. And now she has left and she's headed to New York. The question now is, what happens to every process that she's been heading, Victoria? So that's also a question that needs to be looked at, and specifically the part that is usually played by the EU and other observer groups, and is especially declaring that the IEBC is ready. Now this definitely now calls into even more questions that institution of the observatory group, and why they went ahead and made that remark. Was it informed by their own valuation or evaluation of the process, or was it informed by the position that was also taken by Akombe as a commissioner? Because she has been very vocal, stating that the IEBC is indeed ready for the re-election, Victoria.
All right, thanks, Ken. We'll leave it there. But of course, keeping eyes on Anniversary Towers, that is if the IEBC does respond to the resignation of Roselyn Akombe today. Let's cross over now to Muthaiga, to Jimmy Wanjigi's residence, where police were carrying out a raid yesterday. And it is said that NASA leader Raila Odinga spent the night there. Andrew Cheng, what more can you tell us at this point? Of course, Andrew has been following this case. Yesterday, police said they found firearms at his residence, including ammunition. And of course, right now, it is not known what it is they are investigating at this point. You had James Orengo, his lawyer, saying that this is an illegal act. He was also denied entry into the residence. We have Andrew Cheng now to bring us up to speed as to what's happening. Yesterday, there were reports that Raila Odinga spent the night there. What can you tell us, Andrew?
Well, thank you very much, Victoria. As you rightly said, of course, he spent the night here. In fact, he is still inside the house. The compound all of a sudden has become a buzz of activity. There are probably hundreds of NASA supporters who have come here into the compound. Of course, the NASA co-principal as well, Moses Wetangula, is also here. We are expecting that any time from now, the NASA leaders who are inside there, as well as the lawyers, will be coming out to give just a brief statement of why they have been here, why it was so important to them that the police obey the law and leave this compound. And on that matter, we understand that the police got to leave this place at about 5 o'clock, having been here also throughout the night, even after the court order had been given and mounted on the gates of the premises here. What we've been able to see is just some slight damages that took place. If you could just see right behind me there, there is a door whose windows are not there. Do you see? It's just some slight foil that has been put there on the ground. Of course, there are also some CCTV cameras that have appeared are on the ground there. Some which, of course, are claimed to have been broken right behind me there. So it is still some interesting scenario going on here. Of course, it has been turned into a sort of... There are so many people who have gathered here, and we are expecting that, of course, some of them are expecting that the NASA principal, Raila Odinga, will be coming out and address them. And probably we could also be expecting the man in question, Jimmy Wanjigi, to also appear and give a statement perhaps on what has been happening. We have not been allowed inside the house so far. We have not been allowed to see what had happened, probably if there had been damage, what really occurred, where police were searching, and what it was that was found inside the house. So that is the situation here at the moment at Muthaiga 44, as we wait for the political leaders and the lawyers who are inside the house to come out and brief us on what exactly has been going on. Victoria?
And Andrew, before I let you go, because it seems this is taking a political turn, if you will, but any motives as to why these investigations, police raids are happening at Wanjigi's properties?
Well, of course, you remember there was that initial find at a house in Malindi, which was alleged by one of the workers to belong to Jimmy Wanjigi. Of course, that has not been established. The police have not established that. And even the lawyers who spoke, James Orengo and all the other lawyers who spoke, said that the house does not necessarily belong to Jimmy Wanjigi. So that find there is ostensibly what led to the search here in these premises here in Muthaiga, and of course in other offices. Remember, yesterday there was the search in his offices at Caramel and at Kwacha. So it was the Malindi raid that led to all of this, and the suspicion or allegation that there could be some material inside this house that could lead to a deterioration of security in the country. So that is what the police had been saying all along. But of course, NASA has disputed all this. They say that the guns in Malindi were planted. The guns which were found here, of course, all had licenses. So the NASA lawyers said, NASA lawyers and Jimmy Wanjigi's lawyer, that is James Orengo, said there was nothing wrong with owning even 100 weapons, 100 guns, as long as you have the license for them. So the guns which were found here, of course, there were licenses for them. The ones which were found in Malindi, the lawyers are saying that those could have been planted, and the house does not belong to Jimmy Wanjigi in any case. Victoria.
All right, thanks, Andrew. We'll be heading back to you once we hear from NASA leader Raila Odinga. And we are expecting also to hear from President Uhuru Kenyatta from State House. He's expected to speak on the upcoming elections, as well as the resignation of Roselyn Akombe and what that means for the country as we head to the October 26th planned elections. And to that top story, in a short interview with NTV on the 10th of this month, Commissioner Roselyn Akombe had expressed confidence that the Commission would conduct the October 26th repeat election despite the emerging challenges. Here's what she had to say.
I think we are fairly well done in terms of our technical and operational preparations for the election. We have finalized the training of all our master trainers. We've finalized the training of our trainers, the TOTs. Yesterday, we completed the training of over 700 of our staff, that is the returning officers, deputy returning officers, and ICT staff. So that phase of training is done. From Thursday, we begin a very important phase of the training, which is the training of presiding officers and clerks, because as we always say, an election takes place at the polling station. So we'll be doing that training. Then in terms of the other aspects of preparations, the logistics, we are on course with the logistics. We have the various service providers ready. We've also procured most of the material that we need for the election. You know, we were fortunate that we had remnants from the 8th of August election, so there were very few other additional things that we needed to buy. For instance, we needed to purchase a new set of ballot boxes, precisely because the ballot boxes that we used for the last election still contain the ballots for that election. So the only thing we needed to really get are the ballot boxes. We will commence the printing of ballot papers later this week, and we hope that we'll have a stakeholder involvement in that printing of ballot papers. The technology is being set and will be dispatched also very soon to the various constituencies. So when you're looking at the technical preparations and the logistic preparations of the elections, I think we are confident that we are there. But obviously, as we always say, an election is also about the environment in which it is operating, the political environment that we have. And what we are trying to do as a commission is to try to ensure that that political environment allows for credible elections to take place by reaching out to the various stakeholders, by reaching out to our candidates, and ensuring that we are responding to the concerns that have been raised by our candidates.
Talking about responding to the concerns raised by the candidates, what is it that you're doing about the concern that NASA has raised?
You may recall that last week on Wednesday, we had a meeting with the political parties, the candidates of both sides. And in the case of Jubilee, we had the Deputy President, His Excellency Ruto, attending on behalf of President, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. We also had Right Honorable Raila Odinga, along with his running mate, Kalonzo Musyoka, attending the meeting. They obviously presented to us again the irreducible minimums, and we as a commission have sat down, we have looked at the areas. There are things we can do, there are things we cannot do because of the time. And what we have done is that we've agreed as a commission to formally transmit our response to NASA on those areas, on the areas clearly stating areas that we can be able to accommodate their requirements and areas in which, because of the time, we will not be able to accommodate. And we hope to also make that document available to the public, so that the public is also aware of those areas of contention and areas of success. Mm-hmm.
Besides the technical preparation and all these other logistics that you talk about, you also mentioned that the political environment also has to be right for you to be able to do, a credible election. What are you doing in that area, considering right now we're in a very uncertain period in our country? What is it that the Commission is doing, perhaps, to ensure that all goes well?
Well, I mean, that is why the Commission has been reaching out and having meetings with various stakeholders. That I know that Chairman Chebukati has been reaching out directly to the religious leaders, to the business community, to the media, and to other Kenyans who have influence to be able to reach out to both leaders to really say that this is our country. We have to do all we can to be able to save the situation we are in. Nobody wants to be in a situation in which you have one candidate withdrawing. Nobody wants to be in a situation in which you go into an election with 6 million voters or so disenfranchised or feeling left out. So our job as a commission is to try and do as much as we can. But it is important to also note that it is not only the responsibility of the commission. Ensuring that you have an environment that is credible, that will allow for credible election is a function for all of us as Kenyans, to try as much as we can to reach out to all the various actors and say that we do not want to get into an uncertain situation. We do not want to get into an environment that we don't know, that is uncertain. And that is why, as I said, at the Commission, we are doing our very best. We're trying to do our very best to address the concerns that have been raised. But also, it's the entire Kenyan population that needs also to do their part in ensuring that all the candidates really stick to what we have as a constitution and try and participate in this election.
One of the key things that led to the cancellation or nullification of the August 8th election was the issue of results transmission. What are you doing in that area to clarify matters and to ensure that we do not find ourselves in the same problem?
Generally, what the Commission has done is looked at the judgment from the Supreme Court, and we've done a matrix of these are the issues that the Supreme Court raised, and this is what the Commission is doing. And we also will be making that matrix available to the Kenyan public so that they can see the areas that we have tried to fix as we prepare for this election. Results transmission, we will be making available our results path along with the complementary mechanism so that people can see what it is that we'll be doing. We will not have any results transmitted from the polling station without the image. We have reconfigured our system so that that system allows only for transmission of the image and the text result. We've also been working with the media and really have to commend the media for doing an exceptional, taking an exceptional step, putting their commercial interests at bay and working together to be able to, transmit results or show the results, working collaboratively to be able to show the results as announced in each of the 290 constituencies, because that's one thing we want to do differently. We want to ensure that the media has unfettered access to be able to announce the results from each of the constituencies so that you have verifiability. We can be able to say these are the results that were announced at this constituency and we've tallied them together, and now this is what has made up the final result that we have announced at the National Tallying Center level. So there are very many different things that we are doing as relates to results transmission so that we can fix the problems that were raised by the Supreme Court, and we'll be making that publication available so that the Kenyan people can be able to see them.
All right, before we get the discussion going in terms of what this means after Roselyn Akombe's resignation, let's go to Kisumu. Okusa is standing by there. We understand there's some commotion over the presence of IEBC officials there. Okusa, what can you tell us?
Victoria, what is happening is that some rowdy youths have just disrupted a planned IEBC training for presiding officers and deputy presiding officers for Kisumu Central constituency. Remember, this is the same training which was supposed to happen yesterday in Awasi but was disrupted on the other hand. So the organizers, that is IEBC, decided to shift or to relocate it here at Huduma Center in Kisumu. That is the building you're seeing behind me. It is the same building that houses Kisumu County Governor, that is Anyang' Nyong'o. So in the morning, a woman who was contracted by IEBC to provide tents for the training was pitching up tent on the right side of where I'm standing, and that is when a crowd suddenly appeared here and brought it down. Actually, that particular woman was roughed up when we were just coming in, and she had to be whisked away by police. So thereafter, the youths descended on the tents and brought them down, actually damaged and tried to even burn part of the tents. So that has happened just a while ago, and as we speak, or while that was happening, the IEBC officials were yet to arrive here, including the officials who are supposed to be trained. So this happened before they arrived, and it took a quick police intervention to save the situation here. Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o and former Deputy Governor for Kisumu, that is Ruth Odinga, Kisumu Senator Fred Outa, and a host of local leaders who are also present here, and they have actually remained firm that no IEBC training will take place in Kisumu County. We are receiving reports that even there's another planned training at Chemelil, which they have also vowed that will not take off as far as they are concerned. And again, just a while ago, the governor there, while giving a statement, said that he had actually warned IEBC and the Kisumu County security team that such trainings in this particular region are going to cause unnecessary tension, and actually said that if they go ahead and conduct them, then they should be prepared to face such ugly incidents like the one we have just witnessed here a while ago. So basically that is what has happened. We are also receiving reports that in the neighboring county, that is in Vihiga, similar thing has happened. Youths have disrupted training that was planned for presiding officers and deputies over there. So that is all that has happened so far here, Victoria. And as we speak, I've just seen the Nyanza Regional Commissioner, that is Wilson Jega, just arrived to inspect the kind of damage that has occurred here. Probably they'll be giving us a statement as the security team in a short while on what is happening, if they are they're going to provide additional security for IEBC officials who are planning to conduct these trainings in this region. Back to you, Victoria.
And Okusa, before I let you go, because this was one of the reasons that Roselyn Akombe resigned, was disruption of IEBC preps, intimidation of staff. Did you manage to speak to any of the IEBC officials there to find out what they think about all of this? And will they suspend trainings in those areas until the situation calms down?
Victoria, the only IEBC officials have managed to speak to, that was yesterday. That is a returning officer for Kisumu Central constituency, Mr. John Gutahi, who actually yesterday remained adamant that the training will go on. Actually said that after the incident at the church where they had planned to hold the elections had been aborted and they were relocated to Awasi sub-county offices, that is Nyando sub-county offices, he actually reaffirmed that these trainings will go on. But today we haven't seen any of the officials here yet, so we haven't spoken with any IEBC officials. But again, before I hand over back to you, remember Commissioner Akombe was here just last weekend to prepare these trainings. She actually was in Kisumu at Ombaleba College, where she met some of the IEBC officials. Earlier on, she was in Siaya, and she toured even in Homa Bay. So actually, that tour was sort of the last official, working tour that she apparently conducted before she finally handed in her resignation letter. So that training actually has been earmarked to go on for 4 days. So supposed to start yesterday and go on for 4 days. But as you can see, nothing has happened in Kisumu County so far. Yesterday, after the abandonment at the church, then they were relocated to Nyando sub-county offices. It is not clear whether the training went on there yesterday. And that is the same team actually that has now been relocated to Kisumu at the Huduma Center, where we have just witnessed the ugly incident. Back to you, Victoria.
All right, thanks, Oko Okusa, for that update from Kisumu. We'll be following developments from there throughout the day and, of course, over the course of this week. But let's begin the conversation on what the resignation of Roselyn Akombe means for the country, for the elections, for the commission moving forward. With me in studio now is Gabriel Muduma, a political analyst, and Nelson Havi, a lawyer. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Gabriel, let me begin with you. What does this mean initially with her departure from the commission in terms of preparations for the elections next week?
Thanks, Vicky, for having us. Well, number one, there's a statement I've always wanted to make, and I think this would augur well in the situation that we find ourselves in, and that would be the fact that the independence of the IEBC, and it starts with an I, must be above board. All right, and for them to do anything that is credible, the shenanigans or the questions that we are seeing people ask, and even the pardon and resignation of Dr. Akombe, leaves actually a lot to be desired. And there are so many questions coming from all sides. But you've asked a very good question. Where does that leave us? You know, it's also enshrined in the Constitution. There are ways that Dr. Roselyn Akombe can do, or we are assuming at this point she has already done that, and that is to write to the president and say that's a resignation. What I'm seeing and what she's written, I know she has a press statement, which to me is not really, does not capture any resignation factor. To me, it's more of a political statement than anything else. But if she is to follow the due requirement where she writes to the president, and, you know, she can just say, I've resigned. If the president wants to follow up, why have you resigned? Then that's another, you know, that's another debate for another day. But where does it leave the commission? I think it is very clear that the commission can still proceed. It can still go on. It is actually captured on how they need to move along. You know, within 7 days, it has to be gazetted, blah, blah, blah. Somebody can actually be brought in and for that to continue. What probably would like to hear is probably a statement coming from IEBC and the chairman. They've kept, even Dr. Roselyn has kept the narrative that they were ready, they have been ready, the commission has been ready, they've been ready, they've been ready. And so really from where we are seated, the question we are asking is, have we been, or has the country been treated to, you know, to just mere talk, coffee shop talk, if we may call it? Were they indeed ready? And, you know, we've listened to Dr. Akombe, you know, I mean, she has been the face of IEBC in all media houses. Right. So where does this leave IEBC? I think we must take cue from the chairman, who has said repeatedly again, just like Dr. Roselyn Akombe, that we are ready. All systems are ready to go.
So in your view, she hasn't officially resigned because she has not given the letter to the president?
And this we are speculating. If she has resigned, I mean, that's the duly... well, that's the way, that is the correct way to make official that she has resigned. What we are saying is a press, whatever you call it, or a political statement. As a matter of fact, if I was her at this point, given the fact that I was the face of IEBC, I would not have written what I have seen.
Nelson, let me bring you in on this. Whether it's a resignation, political statement, what effect does her, you know, reasonings have on the IEBC and preparations for next week's election?
Well, the starting point, our colleagues on the other divide have always been suffering a congestion of forms and ideas. I don't know whether they want Roselyn Akombe also to sign a Form 26D in order that it can be confirmed that she has resigned. The fact of the matter is that Roselyn Akombe has appended a signature on a document that is within the public knowledge, and it is within the knowledge of the president that she has resigned. So for a fact, she has resigned as a commissioner of the IEBC. The logical consequence of what's supposed to follow is this. The president is supposed to gazette the fact of her resignation within 6 days from today, and immediately thereafter commence the process of replacing her. But the question is this: is there a president who can be constitutionally mandated to undertake that exercise? The answer is no. So there is a catastrophe in that aspect. Now, on the subsidiary question that you asked, what does it portend now? For a fact, Roselyn Akombe has said in her own words that the commission in its current state can surely not guarantee a credible election on the 26th of October 2017. I do not want to be party to such a mockery or an electoral fraud.
Right.
Now, as it has been maintained from quarters in which I belong before, there can never be a valid and credible election on the 26th of October. And now, with the disclosures that amount to very serious confessions from Dr. Roselyn Akombe, it becomes quite clear that the face that the IEBC have been projecting to us is not the correct face. There is underneath the operation of the IEBC something that is drastically wrong. And Akombe has made it in no uncertain term that the process has been compromised. The IEBC is no longer an independent institution. And look at it from that perspective. She has mentioned several issues that in her mind leads to the conclusion that there can never be a credible election. One of the issues is that the commissioners, all of them, take partisan approaches when it comes to deliberation of issues. Another point is that the legal advice they are getting is not correct legal advice. And if anybody was in doubt as to that statement, all you need to do is to interrogate the recent decisions made by the courts. For a fact, IEBC is making decisions upon advice that is intentionally intended to achieve a particular result, and that result is not to guarantee free and fair election.
Right. And before I get to Gabriel's reaction on why she resigned now, why up until this point was she saying everything was fine,
correct,
and then now reveal that there were issues with preparations and issues with the IEBC. But let's cross over first to State House. Sheila Sendeo standing by there. I understand that we've just lost the signal, but she's waiting for the president's address to the country on the expected elections next week, and a reaction to Roselyn Akombe's resignation. So let me come to you, Gabriel, first.
Well, to be honest, the timing at this point, is suspect, and I believe even Wakili here will agree with me. But having said that, I think it's funny the way we pigeonhole and we cherry pick on what people say. And, Wakili here has gone on to just read a very small excerpt from what Dr. Roselyn Akombe has written. He has failed to say that she actually was very fearful of, the hostility that was playing out just the other day. She was in the Nyanza area, where, we are even seeing it playing right now. And you see, when you don't have a legal sphere where you can make an election not to happen, I would only believe you have probably 2 or 3 ways you can ensure that it doesn't happen. Number one is to create a hostile environment. Mm-hmm. Without the prevalence of peace, really nothing can go on. You've seen, again, I'm just reporting to what we've just seen in Kisumu. The next thing, once you create that, is to ensure that the returning officers, and that's what Dr. Roselyn was saying, her returning officers and her presiding officers, and they were intimidated. The environment that has been created is very hostile. Yeah. The number 3 thing, which I can straight out bet will happen, is to ensure that election material does not get to the areas that's supposed to go. That's actually an easy way of ensuring that process does not take place. And so when somebody would sit down and fervently say there's not going to be an election, legally, from a point of view where a directive has come from the Supreme Court and you cannot argue with that, then you resort to such hostilities and intimidations. And actually, Dr. Roselyn Akombe has captured that very clearly. So are we looking at a scenario whereby the IEBC has been misadvised? Could be, legally. All right, but she also went ahead to say we've filed so many petitions in court and we've lost almost all of them. So really, when you are talking about a partisan approach, as it will happen, even the judges themselves.
So what do you make of her statements throughout this time? Was she lying, or was she saving face for the commission?
I would think, given what she has written in her statement, I think she was just putting a face. She was just putting a face. I somewhat believe what she has written than what she was saying on TV. Mm-hmm. So, it's up to everybody to decipher the way they want to decipher. Right. But there was a serious underhand in how she arrived to even this decision. And, she might have tried to run away from the fact that it was not a Jubilee or a NASA, and I have to speak the truth. It doesn't matter who it hurts, whether NASA or Jubilee. Right. But there is a serious underhand from some of the key issues that she has actually penned down. So we just have to wait and see. Key thing for us at this point is to hear what Chebukati will have to say.
And Nelson, she said the reason why she couldn't say any of these things is because if she stayed after revealing what was wrong with the IEBC, her life would be in danger, hence why she had to leave. And so now the question is, who was threatening her?
Well, it's easy to interrogate and come to a conclusion as to what danger in the nature of mortal dangers that she was facing. It's no longer in the realm of doubt that Chris Musando, who was the ICT director in IEBC, was killed because he refused to toe a particular line. And look, when she last traveled to the United States of America, there was an encounter at the airport where there was an attempt to restrain her from traveling. So clearly, somebody thought that whilst in the United States of America, she will be able to release crucial information that will have put a very bad image of the IEBC and the people behind the threats behind her. Now, I think it's now quite clear, because by that time, we were going towards the hearing of the election petition. And it's evident somebody didn't want certain information to come out. Assuming that this information we have right now had come out at that particular point in time and was submitted to the Supreme Court, I do not think the Supreme Court will have had any doubt in pointing a finger at individuals who are behind this. But it's now quite clear that her tenure at the IEBC was one that was punctuated with a lot of coercion, threats. Remember, about 2 weeks ago, she also mentioned that her life was in danger. And it cannot be said that these are individuals who are protected by the police, that they have a private security. No, if the government is quite determined to achieve a particular purpose, as we have seen lately, they'll be able to manipulate the process, they'll be able to interfere with all your liberties. And I think it's a high time it is understood that even the brave face that Wafula Chebukati often appears to disclose to the public may not be a disclosure of what really is beneath his mind. I think many more of these commissioners are likely to resign, because the manner in which they've been made to operate, it's quite untenable. It cannot function anymore.
Yeah, go ahead, Cape.
I'm actually perturbed when we say they will resign. And you know, this issue has been carried, and just as an observer from outside, you cannot tell me, Victoria, you've not heard rumors that several people are going to resign. You've had that. Even that of Roselyn Akombe, it has actually been put across. Harvey himself, on his Twitter handle, he said that, you know, even Chebukati would have resigned last Saturday. He was supposed to resign last Saturday. So who is this? Who is this strong to intimidate such an independent body? And that's what I'm against. We are so much talking about the political nonsensicals that we do not want to give support to an institution when we know they need it badly. For instance, we are seeing the issues now that are coming out with IEBC personnel, the IEBC staff in Kisumu. And probably if I was Chebukati, I would bring all those people out of those hostile regions and train them in safe zones. And you can do that. Yeah. You know, if there's an issue in those places, take them to a place like Nakuru, train them from there. And when the time comes, because it will be an electoral offense to actually mess around like people are doing now, it will be an electoral offense at that particular time. So this is something that can be done if we all agree to give them support. And at this point, and if that commission doesn't have what you call a contingency plan, they have actually set themselves up for failure. It must be within their realm of good governance to ensure that there is continuity. If this person resigns, there should be continuity. And at this point, you know, Wakili, you'll start giving credence to that amendment bill that President is yet to ascend, which really stipulates that people can just gang up and decide to resign en masse. Where does that leave the country?
And Nelson, which commissioners would these be, apart from Chebukati, who he tweeted should have resigned on Saturday? Which commissioners would this be? And a lot of times people would say these are commissioners who are perceived to be aligned to NASA, who would actually leave.
No, I don't think the commissioners who are resigning are the ones who are aligned to NASA. These are commissioners who have exercised their moral conscience and determined for a fact that they cannot give credence to a sham. And I mean, it's no longer in the realm of conjecture as to the alignment within the commission. Commissioners Gulie, Commissioners Boya, Commissioners Kurgat, Commissioners Nkatha, these are individuals who are frustrating the operations of the IEBC. And I believe in the event that Roselyn Akombe was to be bold and indicate in detail what are the handicaps they face in the plenary, she will mention that these are the individuals who have frustrated the operations of the chairman. And it is therefore an issue that must be interrogated from that particular point. These commissioners must do the correct thing, because IEBC is supposed to be an independent commission. It cannot be a commission that can only sing the song of Jubilee. And so far we've seen every time the IEBC takes a decision that is unconstitutional, every time they take a decision or an action that is unlawful, who comes first to defend them? is President Uhuru Kenyatta, is Deputy President William Ruto. Okay. A clear indicator that IEBC has been pushed into a corner, not by anybody else, but by
Nelson, let me cut you off briefly.
I
understand that the president is about to address the country from State House. Sheila Sendeo is standing by there to speak to us. Sheila, what can you tell us?
Well, Victoria, not much at this point. State House hasn't disclosed really the agenda of what he's going to talk about, but we do know that he had a meeting with religious leaders. You remember there's been pressure for him to sit down with his political rival, as it were, to talk about the current political stalemate. Yesterday, NASA leader Raila Odinga said that he was ready for talks, but not about anything else, but for a free and fair process on the 26th. Of course, also reiterating that there's not going to be an election on that day, that they're not going to discuss anything about what they normally refer to as nusu mkate or a coalition government. And President is expected to right now giving his press briefing, and we are just waiting for that moment right now before he goes back to his campaigns. We understand that he will be campaigning in central Kenya today, so we're just waiting to see what exactly he has to say. It's been a quickly put together news briefing, and we're told that it's not going to take very long, so it's a matter of wait and see at this point. We don't know the agenda. State House hasn't disclosed that at this point, but we're just waiting for him to come and address us, Vicky.
All right, Sheila, we'll just keep that shot on split as we await the president to address the nation. Of course, he's expected to speak to the upcoming elections next week and perhaps the resignation of Roselyn Akombe. But just to have Nelson complete his thought before I interrupted you.
Yes, and it was at that point in time that we're interrogating exactly who is influencing this process. Okay, having looked at the totality of the facts, it is quite clear that IEBC is no longer independent.
Okay.
IEBC
and the president has just made his way to the podium. Nelson, my apologies. Let's head to what he's saying.
Good morning, fellow Kenyans. On the Kenyans went to the polls to elect their leaders, including their president. The elections were the most peaceful in our nation's history. They were free, fair, and transparent. Subsequently, our Supreme Court, citing irregularities, annulled the result and ordered that a fresh election be conducted within 60 days by the Independent Boundaries and Elections Commission. The path, fellow Kenyans, since the Supreme Court decision has not been easy for our country, but we thank God for seeing us through. As we walk towards the declared date of the 26th of October, both as a God-fearing leadership and government, as well as believers in the rule of law, it is our duty to fulfill our constitutional mandate, and we will. A scripture says that if the people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven and forgive their sin and will heal their land. The first step, and one which I hereby call for, is an extended period of prayer and reconciliation this weekend. After consultation with religious leaders, I have reached this decision to call on all Kenyans to pray for their country in their mosques, temples, and churches, culminating in a national day of prayer on Sunday. Let us begin by thanking God for seeing us this far, by asking God or asking God's blessings for our nation. Let us rededicate our nation to Him. Let us ask Him to abide with us and to guide us, both in this period and in the time to come. Let us pray for our leaders, all our leaders across the political divide, that they may be granted wisdom, humility, and that they may love peace and justice. And let us also pray for each other. If your brother or sister asks you forgiveness, do not withhold it. For the truth is that the politics of the day are fleeting. But this nation, under God's care, will endure. We cannot let that which is fleeting sully that which is permanent. Let me close with a word of thanks for the moral guidance that our churches, our mosques, our temples, and all our religious leaders have provided, especially in the last few months. I ask them to continue to stand with the country and to pray for us that we may be guided by God's grace in the weeks and the week in which we prepare for the October 26th election and always. God has lifted this country before, and I trust and believe He will do so again. Thank you, and may God bless Kenya. Asanteni sana.
All right, President Uhuru Kenyatta completing his remarks from State House. So we were expecting a bit more, at least on the elections and the newest news out of Roselyn Akombe's resignation. However, he did ask the country to pray. He wants to make Sunday a national day of prayer. He was also preaching peace throughout this statement. Reactions from my panel, Nelson Havi and Gabriel Muduma. What do you make of?
Well, probably he hasn't received the resignation. I would have actually thought he was actually going to really talk about the Roselyn Akombe issue. But like I told you earlier on, probably he has not received the resignation. And just to go by what I think he's trying to bring people together in the spirit of constitutionalism. Let's pray for our country. Because at this point, I totally believe we need to actually be very sensitive to the issues that are taking place. Having said that, I think we are bound by a very good constitution to preach peace and talk about it. And the things that we are seeing happening at this point are not what any person at this point would be needing. So it's a good call, but I thought it would actually touch a little bit on the resignation of Roselyn Akombe.
Yeah. Nelson, the president's call for unification, peace, prayer, is that convincing?
I'm a man of faith, and that one I can tell you without any fear of contradiction. But you see, prayer without faith and action can never achieve any result. I think this call for national prayer, I think it's quite unwarranted, it's very unnecessary. The reason that we are in a catastrophe right now is not the lack of prayers. It is because of the failure of the administration to do the correct thing. And remember, when Justice David Maraga delivered his decision on the nullification of President Uhuru Kenyatta's election, he was quite emphatic. And above all, the fear of God. You cannot claim that you fear God and then you perpetuate the atrocities we are seeing right now. And there is double speak about this call for peace. Look, when Raila was scheduled to have a rally in Meru in a place called Lari, or I think something of that kind, we saw wanton disruption of that meeting. The podium that he was supposed to address people from was actually banned. And there were policemen standing behind the criminals who were undertaking this activity. No action was taken whatsoever. Now, in Kisumu, what happens? There is a gentleman in his workshop welding and is shot at point blank. There is a small boy who is undertaking his own business is shot in the neck, and to conceal that crime, the policeman proceeds with a knife, slits his throat, and removes the bullet. Now, you're telling us to go and pray? Pray for what? A president is supposed to unify the nation. He cannot permit atrocities to be undertaken against a particular community and then at one point in time say that we have national prayer. We don't need national prayers. And we saw these shenanigans sometimes in 2012 and 2013, national prayers that preceded the ICC. And you cannot have prayers to sanctify an illegal action. You cannot have prayers to sanctify a sin. This thing must stop. And those individuals who are claiming to be religious leaders, conglomerating in the State House, misleading the president, I think they must know that there is a big place reserved for them when the day of judgment will come. It will not be as simple as they think.
So the president's words are not speaking louder than the actions of the police is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Allow me to interject on that. And I think, Wakili, as much as we would want to project a sense of not being prayerful or not getting the cue that we need to come together and reason out, we need to ask ourselves, where did the rain start beating us? You see, I've had so much shenanigans, and people are coming to talk about the bullets that are flying in places like Kisumu and people who are killed in places like Mathare. Albeit the fact that these are tragic. We need, Victoria, to ask ourselves, what happened? You cannot speak about an event today just because it has happened to somebody who you are closely in line with. But some time back, 10 years ago, you did not speak about it because it was not favoring you. We burnt a church with children alive in 2007. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. I said we.
Okay,
Kenyans
fine.
did.
That's a good admission.
Kenyans did. But, Wakili, I probably think at that time you are a lawyer, probably. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. No. I'm saying, yes. You're not Kiambu, it's Kiamba. And the proponents of that day were singing No Raila, No Peace. I can guarantee you, you did not go to church to pray or light a candle somewhere and sing Kumbaya. You did not do that. But today, you won't tell the Kenyans and everybody else something different. What I'm asking is, we, me and you as Kenyans, we need to sit down and have a serious discussion and ask, where did the rain start beating us? Because at the end of the day, we are listening to politicians who at the end of the day will sit down and have a cup of coffee and a cup of tea and shake hands. Okay? And then we go and talk about justice and injustice. When will we ever realize that justice delayed is justice denied? What happened back 10 years ago? If we never dealt with it back then, when will we ever deal with it?
Because you
it will be
that atrocity.
No, exactly. That is what I'm saying. We, not I, you and me, so and everybody else. We accommodated, and that's what I'm telling you.
What we need is truth and justice. That is the starting point.
So peace cannot operate in a situation void of peace and justice.
Because we bought into something called in something I call the illusion of justice. Remember very well, immediately, even before the ink could dry on the Nusumkata, the sharing agreement, peace came out. And we all agreed, oh, there's justice now. Yet we've had people who have died and thousands misplaced. Did we ever care about them after that? No. Today it finds us flat-foot, and then we start talking about Jubilee and NASA. It is not Jubilee and NASA. It is me and him. People who are saying we cannot sit down. This is not about prayer. It's about, you know what? It is hogwash, and we are talking like politicians.
So Nelson, what do you make of those allegations that NASA has double standards in this case, that it's about political convenience?
NASA cannot be said to be having double standards. The power of coercion, the power of governance is in the one wielding it. Who is wielding the power of coercion right now? It's the Jubilee administration. It's the responsibility of the government to maintain law and order, not selectively, not to maintain law and order insofar as you think the demonstrations in Kisumu are unlawful, and to that extent you permit the killing of innocent civilians. And when there is a total breach of law and order in Lari, you fold your arms behind and look the other way. No, and this has prevailed for a long period of time because the Constitution was designed to serve the entire people in the Republic of Kenya. But what we have is selective service. And you see, this cry started a long time ago when the Olekeparo Commission said that the entire public administration was dominated by two communities. And you see, this domination has been propagated elsewhere. It is even gone to IEBC. And let's speak truthfully, and we're not being ethnic in this matter. In the election that was just botched in August, the entire staff of the IEBC that was deployed in other strongholds was composed of individuals from 2 ethnic communities who have a very big base in the Jubilee administration. And I can also tell you without any fear of contradiction, there is circumstantial evidence that can lead to the conclusion that the killings we are seeing right now, they are being perpetuated by certain criminal gangs that have been given police uniform and deployed to NASA strongholds to conduct this ethnic cleansing, to conduct a genocide. And you see, therein lies a problem. Because I agree with my colleague here, we need to interrogate the root cause of this problem. We need to know where it started raining us. And we can't do that by these calls for peace, because as a PLO has said time without number, peace is a child born out of the intercourse of justice and truth. We must have justice and truth first.
Okay.
Before justice and truth, we can never have peace.
All right, let's cross over now to Muthaiga. I understand the NASA leader Raila Odinga is about to address the press. Let's listen in to what he has to say there.
Are we ready? Yeah, good morning. From Monday, and that is over the nearly 72 hours, the police have laid siege on these private premises belonging to Mr. and Mrs. Wanjiki. Now that siege, which was carried out in a very draconian manner, with police vehicles, with more than 100 police officers armed as if there is a battle or a war or a military confrontation in this compound, have been in an illegal occupation of this private residence. And yesterday, despite obtaining court orders early in the day, and despite the fact that those orders were served on the Inspector General and the Director of Public Prosecutions, and I've got copies of those orders served on the Inspector General and the Director of Public Prosecutions, the police continued to be in occupation of these premises illegally. That was an act of trespass, because under our law, there is no legal justification for the police to enter anybody's private residence or property without the sanction of the law or without appropriate orders from the court. And yesterday we got an order which required of the police to vacate these premises, which they didn't, despite the fact that the orders were served. And I posted the orders at the gate of these premises. The police continue to be in illegal occupation of these premises up until early this morning. The Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, was here to visit and find out for himself what was happening to his friend. And when he came in here, I followed a little later, and I was not allowed to enter these premises, although I was on record as a lawyer for Mr. and Mrs. Wanjigi. The Prime Minister had an exchange with the police and again read through these orders to the police officers, and they would not obey these court orders. I know yesterday, because I had a policeman talking to the Inspector General, where the Inspector General actually acknowledged that he had received these orders, but he directed the officer who was in charge of these operations not to obey the orders until contrary orders had been issued by the police. So we have now a dysfunctional state. And it starts right from the way the elections were held, how the orders of the Supreme Court were disobeyed. You remember during the election petitions, there were interlocutory orders that were given to the police, to the commission. Those orders were not obeyed. You have heard how judges are being called names, and one then would not wonder why police officers would choose to disobey valid court orders. So as we speak now, we have taken instructions together with my colleague here, Mr. Otienda Molo, and other lawyers who are here, to proceed with speed to file proceedings against the Inspector General and the Director of Public Prosecutions for contempt of court. And it's not just contempt of court. A lot of damage has been done in this building. A lot of it actually, courtesy the media, the public was able to see that the policemen can come like a rogue militia, armed with axes, machetes, and other crude instruments and weapons, and to begin to destroy somebody's property without a court order. That happens only in a rogue state, in a banana republic. Now, Mr. Wanjigi and Mrs. Wanjigi are here. Mrs. Wanjigi's wife, Irene, I want to thank you, because throughout this, she was very calm. Honorable Maina Wanjigi was here, and I think, Jimmy, you should be very proud of your father, because despite the show of force when I was here, he was calm. But I think he had a similar experience like this at one time. So he knew exactly how to react to this kind of behavior from the state. Mr. Wanjigi, you see, is here, is calm. Yesterday, I told the court that whenever they would require me to take Mr. Wanjigi before the court, so long as the court would give guarantees that he would not be molested, including yesterday. I even offered that we would be able to make him available even today. But the court said there's no hurry. Having presented the case, we can appear in court tomorrow. And there was no requirement for him to appear in court tomorrow. And the judge was satisfied on the basis of the material that we offered before the court that Mr. Wanjigi needs protection. And that protection should come from the state. And the state itself is not complying with those orders of court that require him to be given protection. So I want to end here and give an opportunity to Mr. Wanjigi to say one or two words. But I can assure you and members of the media who are here, we are dealing with a rogue state. A rogue state where even junior police officers, because you know the law of the land, the Constitution, now requires that any officer of the state should not be had to be saying that I am receiving orders from above or from a superior authority. We have gone past that legal regime. That what the officers should have done yesterday was to receive this order and then consult their superiors and inform them they have no alternative but to obey the court orders. And the court gave us these orders in many, many copies, in the original, with the seal of the High Court, signed by a registrar of the High Court, and with the name of the judge who issued these orders. Still, the police would not obey these orders of the court. So I want to end there and invite Mr. Wanjigi to say a few words, and thereafter our principals will talk to you and will be able to answer any questions that you may have. Mr. Wanjigi.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to say on behalf of my wife and I, especially to you, the Fourth Estate, you have covered this siege on our home over the last 72 hours. It is an unjustified siege, a siege that my family need not have gone through. It is actually a siege that is premised on nothing else but persecution. Persecution. I'm an innocent man as I stand here. Everything you have seen from the so-called police is a complete fabrication. Whatever was found here in this home, as they are trying to publicize, those are licensed firearms. Every single one of them. And yet they want to try and say they found something big here. They never bothered to try and ask us or to justify their presence in this home. Any other action you have seen in other parts of the country, we are told in a so-called residence in Malindi, they found guns. This is an amazement to us because we don't know what they're talking about. It is a complete persecution, complete and absolute persecution. Let me say here that if it was not for the will and the strength and the prayers of Kenyans, many of us would not be standing as we are standing here today. Many of us. My wife you're seeing here was assaulted by a police officer. All in the name of her trying to record what they were doing in this house. Recording breakages they were doing. There was an order for search. They say it's a so-called order. None of that order said you can break anything. But they broke into this home. They tried to desecrate the home which my children have grown up in. My wife and I live in. And this is personal, very, very personal, as everybody's home is. They came in here, more than 100 people, as though I'm the worst criminal in this land. GSU officers armed to the teeth, as though we are such bad people. All contrary to the truth. We are innocent Kenyans. And if they can do that to some of us who live in these suburbs, it is frightening what must be happening to the small Mwananchi. Mwananchi who is struggling every single day to make a living. The kind of persecution they must face daily. Daily. Here, I can tell you, even with all that, I tend to believe because of where they were, there was a bit of restriction on their side. And then when we had friends and media paying attention, there was further restriction. And most importantly, of course, when Baba came, that now made them run away from so-called breakage of the law because they were in total contravention of a court order. I hate to imagine what the small Mwananchi faces in this country every day. This is a home I would like to tell you we struggle to build, but this is a home I want to also tell you that this current regime of Uhuru Kenyatta, this is a home they know. It's a home they have visited. It is a home they've eaten with. They've eaten with my family here in this home many, many times. They have. In fact, their government was formed in this home. In this home. Okay. These are the facts. These are the facts. Okay. And I'm going to be very clear here. Right? I also want to say further that after the last general election in 2013, it is this home that Baba here agreed to come to shake hands with Uhuru Kenyatta after the Supreme Court had upheld his declaration. It is this home on Easter Monday that Baba agreed to come. And I remember praying extensively that day because I said, I am such a blessed man in this home and my family to have 10 million plus Kenyans in my home. I felt very blessed. It is here that a peace direction was accepted and a progress forward to Uhuru's own acceptance of leadership in 2013. So this is my father, who has been here for the last 72 hours. Yeah. So in this home has been a very privileged base for a lot of what has happened and blessings, most importantly for my family. It is this home again that the same regime has come to desecrate, come to destroy, for only one purpose. One purpose. One purpose. And it is political. My support for Baba here, which is unwavering and unshaken, and they will not dissuade us from the path that we have chosen. It is my democratic right and that those of every Kenyan, to choose and support in whichever manner they can, legally and peacefully, whoever they want. It is unfortunate that you get victimized for it. This victimization is small in comparison to peaceful demonstrations in this country, where people are being shot. Shot. For what? Even holding a rock is not a crime. You can be picked up for it. Why is it answered with a live bullet? It is so unfortunate what is going on here. And I want to thank all of you, the media, my family, my very good friends who have supported my family. I want to say my lawyers who have done an amazing job, starting with Jim Orengo and Willis Otieno, who hasn't slept all this time. Mole Otende has also been there. And most importantly, I want to say categorically, if it was not for Baba, I don't know where some of my family members would be today. I don't know where some of my family members would have been today. The aggression I am told the police had on this home and on my family, including my aging father, were untold, completely untold. Baba came in at the right time. My wife can't stop crying because he stopped them in their tracks. Stopped them in their tracks when they were desecrating this home. And it is because of that that they have backed off this morning. I'm told after they had threatened to lay another siege. They had come here, I'm told, with a few more GSU men, and they had said that they must vamia by 8 o'clock. But because of Baba and all of the good supporters who are here and outside, they decided to leave. The law to them was irrelevant. This was a stage-managed thing from beginning, and they wanted to execute it no matter what. We want to thank you again for your prayers, and thanks very much. Baba, please, if you can. Why don't you say something there?
No, not really. No, I just want to say thank you very much indeed for all of you. When we came here 3 days ago, we knew we were up to a very big task, and God is great because with all your support, and this guy here, don't forget him. This guy is a hard worker. All the way, please give me where is Willis? Willis has been with us for all that time, and most important, you guys who are not married, get married. This girl has been with those scavenging people. Every corner they've gone to with Willis. She has been unable to sleep for all those 3 days. And as I say, if you are not married, get married. Now. Otherwise, thank you very much indeed for all of you, the media, the leaders from from this country. You have shown there is a difference between politics and family. There's a difference between being a human person and a politician. The two must never be confused. And I'm afraid in this instance, I didn't see the difference. In fact, I saw people, can you imagine a whole lawyer like of the name and seniority of James Orengo, barred out there for hours? Not because he's coming for anything else, just to come and deliver a court order. A court order, of which the officer in charge had a copy, would not allow him in, even when Ryder himself was allowed into the big quarrel. Why did you allow him in? This is a private home. This is not a public place. And really, we have the choice as to whom we admit into the house or not.
Yes.
You can't, you the policeman, you the IG included, cannot choose whom we allow into our own house. And unfortunately, those differences have not been made in this instance. I think it's a regret. I hope it's a lesson for this nation and for Africa in general, because I think you can take politics too far, where you forget every of us have a soul to live on. So otherwise, thank you very much, all of you, and we are grateful for all that you have done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fellow Kenyans, we stand here in this home of our brother and friend and his wonderful wife, Jimmy Wanjigi, on a very regrettable note. I want to remind the Inspector General and those he works for that the new Constitution 2010 transformed what was called a police force to a police service. Inspector General, you don't seem to have been transformed from force to service. And Kenyans are very alert about their rights. When a regime starts crumbling, they start seeing enemies in every direction. And in this particular instance, they have seen the enemy in Mr. and Mrs. Jimmy Wanjigi. We want to tell them that whatever they have done in this home and whatever they are doing to other Kenyans is unacceptable in any civilized country. Martin Luther King Jr. said, the greatest respect to the law is to disrespect an unjust law. And I can extend that the greatest respect to a state is to disrespect an unjust regime. Because injustice to one is injustice to all. An oppression to Jimmy and his wife is an oppression to every Kenyan. And we want, as the fraternity of NASA, the government in waiting, incoming, to tell the people of Kenya that all good things come through some form of sacrifice. And the sacrifice and endurance that our brother Jimmy and his family have gone through is part of the journey towards the liberation of this country. It's part of the journey to the Canaan that Baba has been telling Kenyans about. Canaan is not in the Middle East, Canaan is in this country. And we want our Canaan for the people of Kenya. I want to finish by encouraging Kenyans, all Kenyans of goodwill. The government can unleash terror. The government can fire bullets. The government can strangle people. But it's not possible for the government to shoot everybody. It's not possible for the government to strangle everybody. And in every ashes, there will always arise a phoenix. And that phoenix is the will of the people of Kenya. Tunawaomba wa Kenya tusimame pamoja kuambia hii serikali ya Jubilee ya kwamba Kenya ni ya Wakenya. Kenya si ya watu wawili au watu wachache. Tumeona vile mnajigamba na kutoa matamshi isiyoeleweka. Wakenya wanawaambia sasa imetosha. And let this unjust act in the home of Jimmy Wanjigi be the turning point for Kenyans to cascade towards final freedom. Thank you.
Well, where do you want me to start? I found myself marooned here. I got information from our lawyers that they had been to court and had obtained a court order which they had come to serve here. The original had been taken to the Inspector General, but our lawyer James Orengo was not allowed access into these premises. So in those circumstances, I decided to come myself. I think maybe by accident I was allowed access into the premises.
God's will. God's will.
Yeah. They say the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yes,
His wonders to perform. Yes. I was now here in the premises when I then talked to James Orengo by phone and asked him to come. They came with Senator Mudama, and they were being held at the gate. So I walked out and went to the gate. At which point, but before I went in there, when I came inside, I found a search proceeding within the premises. I went up to the bedroom and I found...
It's not them. It is not the police.
I found a beehive of activities in the bedrooms. Police officers under the beds, carrying out the so-called searches. Then I asked one of the seniors, I asked him, what is going on here? He told me that we are doing a search. I said, but you've been served with a court order. He said, I have not been served. I said, there's a court order which was served on the Inspector General, and the boss should be having it. At that point, I had a copy of the order. Then I told him that you are supposed to be a law enforcement agency. You are the first people who should be obeying the law. And this is an order from the court. At which point, they stopped the search. He came down with them. Then we went out. I went out to meet the boss. The boss followed me to the gate. Then I asked them to open because the lawyer was outside. And they said, no, my instructions are not to allow anybody else inside. They've been very kind to allow you inside, but our instructions are not to allow anybody. I said, no, outside is a lawyer. And every Kenyan is entitled to a lawyer. He appointed at Willis Otieno, who said he was a lawyer. I said, yes, but a lawyer on record is only James Orengo. They refused. It was a struggle. Then I retreated to talk to the boss, their boss, and I told him, here is a court order which has already been served on your superiors. And I read just one paragraph which says that the conservatory orders be and are hereby issued prohibiting, preventing, and or restraining respondents from further trespassing, breaking into, entering, and or in any way interfering with the private residence of the applicant without a court order or warrant for that purpose until further orders of this court. I told him, this is an order. Now, what do you say about this? He was moving. I told him, the Inspector General has been served, and you cannot now plead ignorance that you're not aware. Because if you are going to disobey a court order, what do you expect the common man to do? You're inviting Kenyans completely to disobey the law and order. At that point, he was called by his boss. He went and attended that phone call, and thereafter he said he was not allowed to talk to me anymore. Then we then came back. I was seated with Mzee here with a wonderful chat. Then I was called again that they wanted to see me. And when they called me, I retreated into a room. I called a lawyer who was with me. And at that point, then they said that I was now not allowed to leave this compound.
Detained.
Then I told him, but you know, in those old days, at least they were decent enough to come with an order, a detention order, to tell me that you are detained or you are under house arrest. Then he just said, he walked out and went like that. He came back again to tell us that, you know, weapons had been found here, and therefore, in as far as you're concerned, this is now a scene of crime. And under the law, the scene of crime must be preserved as it is. Then the lawyer told him that, look, it only becomes a scene of crime if you have found something that is criminal. If you're talking about weapons that have been found here, we have shown you the licenses. And of course, they didn't even have to be shown licenses. They knew where they'd come from, the numbers of those weapons. They knew that those weapons were all licensed. I told him that you already talked to the media and told I could see breaking news that so many weapons have been found here. But you know you have the licenses for those weapons. Why are you doing this? This is not right for police officers. He walked out. Then after another 2 hours, there was a reinforcement. They now came and said that I must leave now, that they want to carry out an operation. I told them I'm not going to help you to break the law. Therefore, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here to do whatever you want.
Give him a clap for that.
So, he stayed with Mzee here. He left me. I sat there. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Then again they retreated. We thought they had gone. But again at 6 o'clock they came back again. And this was now a bigger contingent of the need. Now, initially there had been 70, 80. Now there are over 100 in the compound. And went on. I think then some our more supporters began to come in. I want to say hongera sana to those who came and those who stayed at night, because there are quite a number of people who are also keeping vigil outside in the cold throughout the night. Me, at least, I was inside the house, which is a little warm. But we need to know that this home was terribly vandalized. There are no lights in most of the rooms. They're using basically candle lights because they had cut cables, they had interfered with very many things. Even television sets here were not working. It was really what you can call wanton destruction of a private property. This is how they were behaving. Now, this kind of behavior shows a state that has gone rogue. And it started from immediately after the Supreme Court ruling. You saw the president go on a rampage against the judiciary, who tirade, wakora, crooks, mapinduzi ya kimahakama, judicial coup, they've robbed our victory and so on. That actually means that the president himself has shown contempt for the court. And if the president himself starts that way, of course his subordinates will follow suit. And that is when you will get a complete breakdown of law and order in society. That's the reason why you found you now have a rogue police force. Police officers who can shoot 6-month-old, 2-year-old, 11-year-old children with live bullets. In civilized societies, police use rubber bullets. Rubber bullets and truncheons are the ones that are used to control the crowd. But here in Kenya, they shoot directly at a crowd with live bullets, meaning they're aiming to kill. These are basically hired thugs who are basically anti-people. And that is where we are in this country today. But we know where we are. We have been here before. We know that changes that have come to this country have not come easy. They have not come through parliament. If anything else, parliament has been used as an instrument to create dictatorship in this country. The amendments which were introduced in parliament in the 60s and 70s are the ones which eventually ended up with such a rogue state. The Prevention of Public Security Act, the Public Order Act, the Chiefs Authority Act, and so on and so forth. And then Section 2A. All those were brought in by a rogue parliament. Today we have ended up with a similar parliament, where we are being told about the so-called tyranny of numbers, that we'll use our numbers. But he's saying parliament as currently constituted consists of 349 members, people, against 47 million people of this country. The will of the people of Kenya is unstoppable. It cannot be changed. And we have said ourselves, we might as well say it here, that we respect the rule of law. That's why we accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court. But we've also said that we will not proceed without certain things being done. But that is a subject for another press conference. I therefore want to congratulate Jimmy for standing strong. Jimmy Wanjigi here is no stranger to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta knows I've been with Uhuru Kenyatta in this same residence here. And we have had very long discussions with him here, hosted by Jimmy Wanjigi in this residence. So he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's trying to do, that are actually basically trying to set up Jimmy Wanjigi. The weapons supposedly found in a residence in Malindi were found in 2012. Go and dig into your archives, the newspapers. you'll see the photographs of those weapons discovered from the sea. And there's a story about them. They were just taken back there, again, supposedly for exhibit. And they said it's 2 days before they went to search that they are going to go to the house and they're going to find the weapons there. And I mentioned it to them here yesterday. When I told them yesterday, they were ashamed. They know exactly. So everything that's going on here is basically something that is cooked up by the police to try to harass Jimmy Wanjigi. We can end up here by saying, leave Jimmy Wanjigi alone. Thank you very much.
Question? Your name?
My name is Joseph Muraya from Captain Third. Even as this was happening, one of the IEBC commissioners decided to resign. She got to the country. And she raised serious issues. What's your take?
Subject for another day.
Any other questions?
Yes. My name is Brian Rosetti from the Daily. Now that we've seen this happening to Jimmy, and you said it's harassment of private citizens, what is the way forward because it might happen to any other person again?
What do you mean way forward? Because you guys like this way forward, way forward. That's something that is more productive. You're dealing with this specific case of harassment that relates to Jimmy Wanjigi, and you told him to leave Jimmy Wanjigi alone.
It's illegality.
It is an illegality. Okay? So
and we are in court.
And we are in court. And Jim Orengo has told you already that you're going back to court to apply for contempt of court by the Inspector General. So the rest is now up to the courts to make a decision.
It's not necessary.
I think I should answer that.
But where was Jimmy Wanjigi?
That's a story for another day.
Yeah?
Very good.
Very good.
That's the last one. Thank you very much. If there's anything else, we'll invite
Mwananchi. Mwananchi.
Hiyo ni msema kweli.
Asanteni wote wale walikuwa hapo.
We want to ask everybody who is in the compound to give the family a little peace now, including the media and including us all. Yeah, because yeah, and then of course the leadership is going to Kamkunji. We are going to have big rally in Kamkunji, where we're going to talk to Kenyans and everybody. No reform, no election.
All right, NASA leaders there at Jimmy Wanjigi's residence in Muthaiga addressing the press following the police raids that had occurred in various properties owned by Jimmy Wanjigi over the last 72 hours. Raila Odinga confirming that he did spend the night at his residence and that his presence actually had the police leave after they refused to respect a court order. And that has now led to NASA saying they will go to court to file for contempt of court by the Inspector General of Police. And we also heard from Jimmy Wanjigi, who has not appeared until today, saying that this was stage-managed, unjustified siege on his property. He says, I am innocent. And he also said that he is both friends with the Jubilee and NASA coalitions, that after the Supreme Court ruling in 2013, the Jubilee government was actually formed in his house. So we'll be following developments coming out of this story over the next couple of days. For now, though, let's take a short break. My guests are still with me, Nelson Havi and Gabriel Muduma. We'll continue this conversation after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Decision 2017. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. Still with me in studio is Nelson Havi, a lawyer, and Gabriel Muzuma, a political analyst. We've just finished watching the press briefing by NASA leaders at Jimmy Wanjigi's residence. Gabriel, what do you make of this? Is this just political noise, distraction, or does it have a bearing on where the country is headed?
First, Vicky, we need to know the instruments that were at play. I've heard Orengo saying that there was no legal court document that was presented to the Wanjigi's family, and you've heard from the other end that there was indeed a search warrant, but orders were given. So we need to understand which one, surpasses what. But just talking about if indeed that's true, the breakage, even if there was a search warrant, I think it needs to be carried in a manner that there's really no destruction of property. If it's actually going to to warrant destruction of property, then that is really unfortunate and it's uncalled for. But again, like I've said, we need to also understand what is in play. Right. What led? Why were the police, or the state organs? Why did they go into this house? Is it really political? Is there something else? Is there a criminality right. in that sphere? When we are talking about guns, can they confirm whether they are licensed or not? I mean, are Kenyans allowed to even have such weaponry? So those are some of the few things I think the state must come out and explain clearly. And if you're talking about the Bureau of Firearms licensing such weaponry, then they should have come out clearly and said, you know what, these are the licenses that Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi holds, and these are not. So if there's a criminality in the sphere, then let the full wrath of the law be followed. If they are not, then that could be actually a political interference. Yeah,
Nelson, you have the NASA principals pointing the finger at government, saying we're dealing with a rogue state. This is a dysfunctional state, hence why things like this can happen outside of any legal backing to now storm Jimmy Wanjigi's house, for instance, without any reason as to why or justification as to why.
Absolutely, I agree with what Baba said. Look, there is a big problem here. The only reason as to why Jimmy Wanjigi is being persecuted is because he gave support to Raila Odinga as a presidential candidate. And we have seen this time without number. Whenever a prominent Kikuyu says, I will align myself to a particular cause for change, which does not find comfort in the government, they always conglomerate and say they are going to curse him. Quite unfortunately, these curses never work because we're living in a country where there's the rule of law and above all, the obedience to God. Gabriel, just be patient. This is a hard fact that we must interrogate.
But now, you've used the Kikuyu. You cannot put that in line whenever.
It may not please you. You're not happy, but this is the fact.
It's not about being happy or not. But it's good to be
Gabriel,
fair.
permit me to progress.
Okay, we need to allow Nelson to finish his thoughts.
You had three candidates who are Kikuyu running for the presidency in 2013. Nobody cast them.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's erroneous.
That is the fact. We can't run away from facts in this country. We need to interrogate facts. As soon as we stop talking, then we'll start fighting. It's as clear as that. Okay. Now, that said and done, I have a message to the Chief Justice David Maraga. There is a judge in Milimani who has a notoriety of working with criminal gangs in the police, always issuing orders without disclosing her identity. That is quite unfortunate because we saw this in respect of the Africa grade. We have seen this. And I believe if this thing is taken to Milimani right now, no judge or magistrate will want to take accountability for this order. And I beseech the Chief Justice to take disciplinary action against this particular magistrate. If the Chief Justice does not take disciplinary action, we as the Law Society of Kenya will move to Milimani and take action against this particular magistrate because we cannot have the judicial process being used by criminal gangs to interfere with the Bill of Rights. That's number one. Number two, I think way forward is this. We need to interrogate the key issues that have brought us to the trouble we are facing right now. We are living in a rogue state. I don't know whether my friend President Uhuru Kenyatta is well conversant with history, but he needs to understand what happened to Napoleon Bonaparte. At the commencement of his reign, he said emperors and fools, kings and pawns. He did not understand how the people of France will be able to deal with it, but they dealt with him. But more recently, and I don't think it was too young to have noticed the events that happened to despots. We saw what happened to Samuel Doe. We saw what happened to Nicolae Ceausescu. We saw what happened to Muammar Gaddafi. We saw what happened to Saddam Hussein. We are living in a democratic society, but don't push people to the limit because you are daring the people of Kenya. Let there be the rule of law. If we can't have the rule of law, then we'll degenerate to the order of man in the state of nature. And it will be a very catastrophic day if we are permitted to go to the state of nature, as is quite evident the intention of this Jubilee administration. That must come to an end.
In the absence of an election, it will take extrajudicial, extra-constitutional means to remove Uhuru from office? Because you've alluded to other leaders who have been taken out of office.
Victoria, let's be candid. The constitution was created by the people. The moment a dictatorial regime uses the constitution to ascend into power, it becomes illegitimate. And you can see, we went to the court to find a determination as to the validity of the election of this gentleman. What did he do? He started threatening the judges. He said he will interfere with their security of tenure. He will interfere with their personal security. And we're not saying from tells, because Justice David Maraga came out and said clearly, our personal security as judges is being endangered. We need the protection of the people in Kenya. Now, if the Chief Justice, who is protected with that magnitude of security, can make this lamentation, then we are in trouble. And when we cannot ventilate our issues through the system set up in the Constitution, and Gabriel, however much you don't like this, let me tell you.
No. I'm not actually interjected. Yeah. You're actually the one who thinks I don't
like this. As a lawyer, I can tell you, a law is only credible for as long as it is obeyed by the ruler, and the ruler does not oppress the subject. If the ruler oppresses the subject, the manner in which we are seeing right now, then there is no law. We are in a state of nature, and we do not want to descend in a state of nature. We've seen what happened to Liberia. We've seen what happened to Libya. We've seen what happened to Romania. We don't want to be taking that course.
You see, having said all that, have you had any point that Nelson has made as to what law or constitution has not been followed? The president can say what he wants to say, can call, the judge personally, what he feels like. But at the end of the day, he has to follow the Constitution.
He has never followed the Constitution. It's as simple as that.
No, what has he not done? What has he not done? He was told to go back to an election within 60 days. He has accepted to go on the 26th.
He has taken a bill to the parliament to countermand what the Supreme Court has said.
The parliament
is unconstitutional.
What has?
In fact, the parliament as we sit right now is unconstitutional.
I'm still not getting the point that you're trying to say.
Because you've cocooned your thought pattern. You do not want to listen. You do not want to appreciate.
Has that amendment been signed to law? Anyway?
Not yet.
Not yet. So you are saying the president has done something
but he
illegal.
But he said he will sign it without blinking even a minute. He will not wait for a minute.
He would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah, because he knows the consequences of doing that.
What consequences? He's not the one who passed the bill, Nelson. It was passed by parliament. The same parliament you're called rogue and your people are there receiving a salary. Who is fooling who, Nelson?
Our people have not sanctified this unconstitutional and unlawful act on the part of Jubilee. And they will not sanctify it.
You see, there is one part here where Nelson is actually not honest. He's talking about an amendment which the president, he himself, has not even signed. We do not know why he has not signed. If he was so quick as to get these amendments in, he would have already signed it. Why is he not waiting? And even if he signs it, Nelson is putting a scenario for people to think it's illegal for the president to assent a bill. That is his job.
So what is illegal, the amendments or the process?
Thank you, that's what I'm asking.
The entire amendments are illegal. In fact, the entire regime is illegal. You see, listen, Gabriel, let me school you with the knowledge of law. It's as simple as this.
Then you're not schooling me.
We are in a presidential government where the president-elect must prorogue the parliament. You understand? This mistake started in 2013 because in 2013, President Kibaki purported to prorogue a parliament that did not belong to him. Now, the same mistake has been repeated by Uhuru. He had no right under the Constitution. And those who know public administration
are you chastising the president for what is going on in Parliament? And remember,
yes,
you are the ones who are telling us, the lawyers, even though we know this, that Parliament is an independent institution. Then, if we have to take that at face value, then you have to actually justify this narrative that all members of Parliament who are in that house follow robotic instructions.
No.
Failure to it. I have seen Jubilee members coming to say,
why didn't the
we need to move
opposition
slow.
just at least say something to combat the amendments? You totally moved away from this process saying you're not going to sanctify it with your presence, but why not just say something, have something on record that you oppose the amendments?
Victoria, the law belongs to the people. The people who represent the interests of the change movement in Parliament have said they will not rubber stamp a process that is unconstitutional, and they will not waver on their position on that issue. Because, as I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by Gabriel here, the Parliament proceeded on erroneous premise. You understand? And President Uhuru Kenyatta does not have any mandate in law ascending to that bill. Let me ask you a very, very, very important question that will give you a panoramic view how to deal with this matter. Tell me, when we were waiting for the presidential election petition in 2013, did President Kibaki have the mandate of signing into law any bill? Because President Uhuru is in the same position in which President Kibaki was in 2013. He cannot assent to a bill. It's as simple as that. And he knows that. Or if he doesn't know that, then he needs to fire all legal advisors besides him today.
Now,
it's as simple as that.
Where in the Constitution is that stipulated, that he's doing something illegal? Trust you me, he will not be able to provide that for you. If he could have, he would be showing you here in clear daylight.
We'll show you in court if you want to go to court.
Listen, it's not me going to court. You're talking about Kenyans, people who follow the rule of law. And all I'm asking is, don't bring the shift back to me. Please, don't bring the responsibilities back to me. I went out and voted for my member of parliament. It's up to him to go and represent me in that house. I cannot, and I don't have access in parliament. So when you tell me there's a rogue parliament and we voted for those people, then we are also a rogue nation. Me and you, we are actually...
So Nelson, did the opposition MPs do a disservice to their constituents for not
They are doing it.
No. The first responsibility that they're supposed to undertake, the swearing in, that is in order. There's no problem. Because the swearing in is not undertaken within the supervision by the president. That's a complete new issue.
But the problem is this. You should not even be allowed. You should not swear yourself in. That is just what you call, humanism. It's something, you're not even playing politics. You just don't believe in the process. Don't even swear yourself in. They are swearing themselves in because of the salary.
Gabriel,
if we have to be fair and honest.
Nelson, your response?
If you doubt what I'm saying, let President Uhuru Kenyatta pen his signature on that bill. We will quash it.
How? Through where?
We'll go to court.
Through parliament.
We'll go to court.
Exactly. But then you're still talking about a rogue
rogue parliament that has been prorogued by a president who does not have the mandate in law to prorogue parliament. It's as simple as that.
The same court you're saying, which to me now you believe the court is the only institution which is not rogue, gave a directive, a court order to do and conduct another election within 60 days.
As a result of which the Jubilee administration have interfered with the fidelity of the IEBC.
It's not about
the IEBC cannot make any progress.
Then the same court would have found Jubilee culpable.
Okay.
Would have found the president culpable. I mean, this is the problem I was telling you. We have an issue with pigeonholing and cherry picking on a directive from the Supreme Court. Why can we not just follow it in its entirety? Do another election with strict adherence to the rule of law.
Gabriel, now that election is being threatened with...
exactly.
As Akombe said...
And it's hostilities.
Yes, of course. It's hostility. By NASA, and of course now Akombe's resignation.
Akombe said an election cannot be undertaken. You understand? And if you interrogate the divide within the IEBC, then she speaks for about 4 individuals in the commission that is supposed to oversight this election.
Which
Let's not kid ourselves.
No, which commission? She has not mentioned anybody.
We have eliminated the commissioners that we know are under the control of Jubilee. You understand?
So,
and
you see, there you go again.
The individuals who are
and the rest that are remain under the cloud of who?
And speak openly so that we interrogate this issue once and for all. And I think I must beseech Wafula Chebukati, you don't need to live in continued fear. Come out like Roselyn Akombe has done. Say the correct thing. Kenya will remember you. Do not be party.
Let me ask you, Gabriel, because if Wafula does actually heed to that call, resign like Akombe has done, will that now delegitimize next week's election?
In fact, a chairman resigning throws everything in disarray. the chairman resigning. And that's why you see in the Amendment Act, the one that's actually in front of the president, had taken care of that. And you see, when you're talking about electoral reforms, these are things that I expected to have been put in place way back in probably 2008, 2009. We need to foresee, we need to have a contingency plan, not the judiciary or parliament, but we as Kenyans, we need to formulate a framework whereby we say, we need a contingency plan. What if this person is not available? For instance, at this point, you can see the constitution that on the electoral management, on chapter 7, where it still continues to say it doesn't matter whether a vacancy, one vacancy, probably I think 3, the elections can still go on.
Right.
But if you have several other people resigning from the commission, then this country will be put in disarray, and probably that election may not take place. And I began by telling you, Victoria, it is very easy. It is very easy now, in light of what is happening, to ensure that this election doesn't take place. Number one, create hostility. Number two, ensure that ROs and POs, like what we are seeing, make sure they are antagonized to the very core, that they start, they start going back and, wanting to know whether their personal security will be taken care of, or whether they will be pushed into harm's way. Right. The minute they start thinking like that, ensure that you've created another hostile environment where election materials cannot actually reach the final destination. You will try in several parts, but I don't think you will be able to disenfranchise the whole country from engaging themselves into the 26th, the election that we're coming through. So I think the only thing that may change probably is if the chairman was to resign. It would throw things in disarray.
And do the new amendments, if they are signed into law, will they fix that issue of quorum, for instance?
I think they would.
If there's a vacancy in the chair?
I think they would. But again, even with that, if today that bill was to be ascended by the president, I can guarantee you the likes of Nelson, they'll be heading to the Supreme Court.
So even though there's a legal fix for this, there's also a perception battle that the IEBC is fighting with Akombe out. I mean, what do you make of this, Nelson, in terms of it affecting next week's election? We can't get away from that.
I think Dr. Roselyn Akombe has demonstrated a lot of courage in the manner in which integrity is supposed to be manifested as required by Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Those who are cowardly in the manner of their administration, I think will come out in the open now that a precedent has been set for them. And we've seen the events that have punctuated the manner in which Jimmy Wanjigi has been mistreated. I think Kenyans must understand, after you've been given a responsibility, you need to take charge of that responsibility. And you need not fear, because you see, if individuals like Justice David Maraga have said, we are prepared to pay the ultimate price, then who are you not prepared to do the correct thing? They should just do the correct thing. Because what we have seen time without number, and this is not an issue that we are now debating about, there is a problem at the IEBC, and even Gabriel here admits. How do we resolve that problem? The problem emanates because certain individuals within the IEBC want to go on with an election that is not a credible election, an election that has terminated by operation of law. What are they doing? They're buying an SGR ticket for a train that has already left the station. It's an exercise in intellectual futility. Do the correct thing. Call for another election in the manner in which it's provided for in the Constitution, and take fresh nominations, you understand? In between now, ensure that you comply with the basic minimum requirements to ensure a free and fair election. First things first, Ezra Chiloba must be evicted out of IEBC. He cannot be collecting our money and subverting our will. It's as simple as that. It's only that way that we'll be able to have a free and fair election. Let's have a situation whereby, like in a football match, all the people in that pitch are able to know who scored. What is this that they're hiding? If they have the numbers, let them play in the open. We'll know who has scored. And if it is Uhuru Kenyatta who scores 10 goals, we'll say, hallelujah, congratulations.
You remember that is the very same narrative that was used to get the Hassan-led commission out of office? Same narrative. And I mean, it's the high time we asked ourselves, is it the commission that's not getting it right, or is it the players? Really, we can't be forcing people out of the commission every time an election is carried and does not support your standing.
So the commission is a victim of politics in this case?
It is. And that is why it shocks me that the first person we can go for is Chebukati. If indeed we are talking about strengthening an institution, why can we not support that independent commission to ensure that systems are in place like we had done, all right, and to ensure that these people understand the task ahead? Why must we pigeonhole and remove people? Why are we going for people? And that's why I'm saying, you see, when somebody comes out in full glare of the cameras to say that I don't want that person, I don't want, what kind of investigations have you carried? Or are you using the people who are actually giving you internal stories, some which cannot even be validated? Is that how you're using the stories that you're getting from the inside to really continue corrupting the independence of a judicial of an electoral commission? And that's why I started by saying the independence of the IEBC must be above board. They should not even listen to the play. And it's very funny when everybody keeps saying, you know, the president is not talking about it, or Raila is not talking about it. These Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta, they are both players. And that is why Chebukati must hold this commission. It's like the way they say, hold the bull by the horns. Take it as is, try your best, get the support that you require, continue talking to the Supreme Court, get as much interpretation as possible, because that is where, and that's the institution that can actually, you know, negate the exercise that you'll do. So I think he needs to keep close to the Supreme Court more than any other player.
With some of the issues raised by Akombe and the reasons behind her resignation, and with the IEBC as currently constituted, do you believe that it can still carry out a credible election next week?
They don't have an option. They don't have an option. And that's why I say they need a lot of support. Roselyn Akombe has come out to say there are issues. In fact, there is a very big division within IEBC. But whose problem is that? That's not Raila's or Uhuru's. That problem is Chebukati's. That's the chairman.
Can he fix those issues by next Thursday?
He doesn't have a choice. He has to. He has told us. He has told us so many times that he will be able to conduct an election. And by the way, it is not him. And Nelson, I wonder when Nelson saying that we push in 90 days. How? How are we pushing it? The man is following a directive from the Supreme Court. All right? The same Supreme Court that nullified the presidential election. So he has been given an order. It is a directive. He has to, you know, he has to ensure that that happens. Again, the Constitution is very clear that somebody can go. That even though there's a vacancy in that particular commission's docket, it can still go on. So what we should be calling upon is the credibility of that process. Can it happen? And yes, it can. All IEBC needs is support. It's goodwill. It's goodwill and support.
Nelson, your response.
Look, when you have a lady who speaks with forthrightness like Dr. Akombe, then you realize if there was a lady guiding Moses, then the Egyptians will have seen the Israelites migrate out of their country within a short period of time, and the Israelites will have reached Canaan within a short period of time. But look, the finality of this issue is as simple as it is. First of all, we must understand there is no election on the 26th of October as a matter of law. Reason being, the moment Raila Odinga withdrew from the race, then by operation of law, IEBC was mandated to undertake a fresh election preceded with nominations. They have labored around this issue with a lot of conundrum troubling their head because they don't know what to do. But that is the finality of the matter. There is no election on the 26th. If an election is conducted on that particular day, it will be an invalid election. Way forward, IEBC must do the correct thing. What are they supposed to do? They're supposed to initiate fresh nominations and ensure that they have a fresh election. That way, we'll have a situation whereby the credibility of this poll will be ensured. And in my closing remark, permit me to say this, Victoria Rubadiri. I'm an Anglican, and I want to beseech my Archbishop, Dr. Olesapet, and my Provost, Wanyoike. They need to remember that President Uhuru Kenyatta is not the leader of the Anglican Church here. We do not want any shenanigans of being asked to pray on Sunday in the manner in which they have said. Because the problem is not in the prayers. The problem is in the implementation of the will of the people, which is as clear as daylight. The people who have been given this responsibility at the IEBC cannot see how clear it is. Remember when they went to the Supreme Court, what did the Supreme Court tell them? You're either dumb or you're just mischievous, because the law is as clear as daylight. And these are the individuals you want to oversight an election. That is turning logic over its head. They don't even know what to do. They keep on going to court to ask what to do.
But can Nelson tell us the law that he's talking about on new nominations? Please show me that law. Kindly, I know you're a lawyer. Show me. Show me. Because what we are doing...
How will you be able to know? Will you really understand it, Gabriel?
Please show me. Yeah. Show me.
Is it within the Constitution at least to say that we will not have elections next?
I'm all ears.
It's provided for under Article 138 and under Article 140 as read together with the provisions of paragraph 290 of the decision of 2013 by the Supreme Court. And this is what they do not want to understand.
Victoria,
they want to go around that simple and straightforward provision of law.
That's erroneous. He's the very same person telling you here, and please, get what are they saying? He's the same person telling us there was no election because the court validated the entire election. He is the very same person telling you that the president is not in office legally. Yet, they are talking about an incumbency, a period which, to me, and I'm following the laws or what he's talking about, does not allow the president to be in the incumbency because the first vote was nullified. So, when you're saying you have a president who is not in office...
1st November, he must leave State House.
You see, exactly, that's what I was saying.
On what grounds?
They won't tell you on what grounds. No, they will not tell you on what grounds.
Come to an end. The landlord, which is the people of Kenya,
read. You see, we have this. This is a wonderful constitution because it tells you both the incumbency, what the president can and what he will not be able to do. And also, hang on a minute. And also, it's not about inspiration. Yeah. And then, it's not about the president. But it also tells you, it gives you clear guidelines on the incumbency, how. You know, the fact that we will not have a vacuum.
If it's clear, why do you go to court for interpretation day after day?
Of course you must go.
Because you don't understand it.
Because at the end of the day, it is the Supreme Court that will interpret half of the cases that you think, that you know. When you go to the Supreme Court, they are interpreted differently. That's not to say you're not a lawyer. But that's not to say when you lose a case, my friend, because I believe you've lost many, does not mean that you don't understand the law.
What do you need than the statement?
Are you getting me, Victoria? The other thing, when we are told there is no vacuum, it is also very clear. Until another president is elected, that is when the president will leave that
seat. So right now, who remains president until we have an election?
Even if it's for 20 or 40 years, it will still be. I mean, it's clear as the... And having...
Now you see the intention was to create a constitutional crisis and say we'll continue being in power.
Unless you bring another constitution that invalidates that the president remains in office until a new president is elected, then we will go by what's written in the constitution.
So if an election happens next week and we have a new president, will we still have a constitutional crisis in your view?
Victoria,
because you're saying we're not going to have an election next week.
I don't want you to be marooned in this swamp of Jubilee. There will be
it's not Jubilee again, it's a constitution. Victoria, and please, don't let these guys lie to you. There's no constitutional crisis. Yeah. There isn't.
Okay.
It's a political crisis. There's no constitutional crisis. We were done in 2010 after we promulgated the constitution.
This conversation will go on. We need to take a break and wrap up this conversation. And of course, when Thursday comes around next week, we'll see whether we have an election or not. Let's take a short break here on Decision 2017. Thank you so much, Gabriel and Nelson, for your insights. Much more ahead on Decision 2017. We'll be right back. watching Decision 2017. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. A lot has happened in the wake of the resignation of IEBC Commissioner Roselyn Akombe. A lot of reaction coming from various quarters on what this means for the country.